First, having read the Book of Myths and loaded the camera and checked the edge of the knife blade, I put on the body armor of black rubber, the absurd flippers, the grave and awkward mask. I am having to do this not like Cousteau with his assiduous team aboard the sun-flooded schooner, but here alone. There is a ladder. The ladder is always there, hanging innocently, close to the side of the schooner. We know what it is for, we who have used it. Otherwise, it is a piece of maritime floss, some sundry equipment. I go down, rung after rung, and still the oxygen immerses me. The blue light, the clear atoms of our human air. I go down. My flippers cripple me. I crawl like an insect down the ladder, and there is no one to tell me when the ocean will begin. First the air is blue, and then it is bluer, and then green, and then black. I am blacking out, and yet my mask is powerful. It pumps my blood with power. The sea is another story. The sea is not a question of power. I have to learn alone to turn my body without force in the deep element. And now, it is easy to forget what I came for among so many who have always lived here, swaying their crenellated fans between the reefs, and besides, you breathe differently down here. I came to explore the wreck. The words are purposes. The words are maps. I came to see the damage that was done and the treasures that prevail. I stroked the beam of my lamp slowly along the flank of something more permanent than fish or weed. The thing I came for. The wreck and not the story of the wreck. The thing itself and not the myth. The drowned face always staring toward the sun. The evidence of damage, worn by salt and sway into this threadbare beauty, the ribs of the disaster, curving their assertion among the tentative haunters. This is the place, and I am here, the mermaid whose dark hair streams black, the merman in his armored body. We circle silently about the wreck. We dive into the hold. I am she, I am he, whose drowned face sleeps with open eyes, whose breasts still bear the stress, whose silver, copper, vermeil cargo lies obscurely inside barrels, half wedged and left to rot. We are the half-destroyed instruments that once held to a course the water-eaten log, the fouled compass. We are, I am, you are, by cowardice or courage, the one who find our way back to this scene, carrying a knife, a camera, a book of myths in which our names do not appear. I chose to use the Ciardi analysis for this poem. The speaker is a woman, but her gender becomes progressively more ambiguous. She describes a situation in which she dives into the water to explore a shipwreck, which is her sole purpose. She gets ready by putting on her mask and flippers after reading a book of myths and preparing a camera. While in the water, she notices the damage of the wreck and its strange beauty. She addresses the situation to men and women, conveying the oppression of women in a patriarchal society. The speaker progresses from outside of the water to inside of the water, in which she reaches many conclusions about humanity and gender roles, as well as her own identity. She states, I am she, I am he, purposefully making her own gender ambiguous and extending the scope of who she must be. She even says, we are, I am, you are, indicating a wider idea of identity, one that might even include the reader. The mental image the poem creates is the speaker underwater viewing a shipwreck. The book represents the past stories and incidents experienced by other women, the camera represents the speaker's intention to remember the oppression of women, and the knife represents her own possibility of harming others. She descends using a ladder, which represents the pathway to discovering the long-lasting suffering. The speaker uses the extended metaphor of the ship and many other metaphors to create the mental image with symbolic significance, ultimately relating to the theme that we must remember the past in order to move on from it. She also alludes to Cousteau, a famous diver who had a large team. The speaker is interested and intrigued by the situation and what she sees. The reader can reach this conclusion through the speaker's vivid observations. The general atmosphere of the poem is mystical yet serious, as the speaker observes the wreck but also describes it as beautiful. The poem does relate to my life, as we know and have seen the impact of past suffering in today's world. While the poem implies the past suffering of women specifically, it can also be extended to all trauma and oppression. This poem helps me understand the long-term effect of the struggle for women's rights throughout history. Once again, the theme is that we must fully understand past struggles in order to move on from them completely, in the same way that the speaker rejected the Book of Myths and decided to view the shipwreck from her own eyes, allowing her to understand her true, authentic identity.